Welcome to Overwhelmed to Overcomer podcast with coach, encourager, and strategist Anna McLaughlin. If you're a Christian woman who has big dreams rooted in an even bigger God, but most days those dreams feel completely out of reach, trust me, I get it. As a homeschooling mama of 4, entrepreneur, investor, and all around wearer of many hats, I am right there with you. And yet, the Lord invites us to live out our God given purpose now in the midst of the madness. So, let's explore together how we can know our calling and walk in it today with clarity, with courage, with each other. It's time for you to live the life you love and love the life you live. Let's do this thing.
Hello and welcome to this week's Overwhelmed to Overcomer. This week we're talking about a topic that may not be your favorite at outset, but I hope that it brings a deep healing to you today. We're talking about the topic of betrayal. Deep breath. The more I've talked to people, the more I've gotten heart to heart, the more I've found that many of us, most of us, have a betrayal story. At least one. A story of heartbreak. A story where we were sure we knew where we stood with the other person, and the rug got pulled out, and we were left breathless. Whether it was thinking a friend was for us and finding out they weren't, whether it's the betrayal of one we love most through an affair or other infidelity, whether it's something more universal, more abstract, a job, thinking that things were going one way and they were going another in the world, whatever it might be, it can feel like a sucker punch in the gut. I read a book recently. You know, I'm always grabbing one off the shelves, called Talking to Strangers by Malcolm Gladwell. And if you've been around here for a minute, you know that he is one of my people. One of my friends and I, when we took a trip together recently, she pulled out this book asking all these different kinds of conversation starting questions. You know, what's one of your top memories from childhood? If you could travel anywhere, where would it be? One of the questions is who would you most want to sit down with and talk to that is currently alive? And I could give a really long list, but the man that came to mind for me was Malcolm Gladwell, because he just has a way of looking at the world that constantly fascinates me. In this book, I found not only interesting ideas, but a deeper healing for one of my own betrayals. And I think it's going to serve the same purpose for you today. So we're going to unpack this thing a little bit. I feel nervous. I was like, I'm not ready to hit record yet because I feel like this is such an important topic and I don't know that I can catch it to do justice to the heartbreak that so often comes with this unique type of hurt. There are so many challenges that we weather as human beings in this life. There's this great line at one point that I heard in a Beth Moore talk. She was in a doctor's office, I think, with one of her children, and her daughter said, "You know, Mom, I think God knows it's scary being us." And I thought that was so beautiful. It is. It can be scary being us, being human beings. She wasn't talking about just her and her mom specifically, being human beings, walking this humanity thing out. Those moments of vulnerability where we recognize how fragile we really are. And whether that's a sickness or in this conversation, recognizing how easily we can be hurt by someone we love and trust. It can be hard to face those things. But as usual, we're going to do it together. We're going to talk through the thing, we're going to reason it out, and we're going to find a deeper healing today. Okay? All right. So, first, we're going to set the stage a little bit. When it comes to betrayal, one of the most common things that comes up when we're experiencing this emotion is this feeling of like, I should have known. I should have known. There were signs, there were indicators that they didn't care, that things weren't going the way I thought they would, that there was a problem that I should have attended to. And so with that thought, it unlocks one of the worst emotional experiences we can have, which is shame. Ah, I should have known. So stupid. How could I not have seen it? And this, I feel, is one of the great just trials isn't a big enough word. One of the great, like, overwhelming. I'm just grabbing adjectives. It just lays you flat. That's all I've got. It lays you flat because now not only were we hurt by someone, but we're mad at ourselves too. We feel embarrassed. We feel lost. We feel broken. We feel alone. We feel so emotionally bankrupt and destitute because we feel that in some way we've abandoned ourselves. We've been duped. We're we're like foolish, whatever it is. Whatever it is. And so now we have this double whammy of someone hurt me and I could have done something about it, and I failed to do it. When I was walking through one of my betrayals, I got on the phone with someone that I wasn't even really close to, and but I had reason to relay the story of what I was going through. And in this gentle, soft voice, and this guy was like a hard driver, like he was just all business. But he took this place of tenderness with me in that moment, really just the grace of God. It truly feels like a gift from the Lord directly. And he said to me, Anna, it's not your fault. You couldn't have known. And again, here I am crying to this man I barely know. It's not your fault. And so I want to say that to you at the outset of this conversation, wherever that betrayal is, wherever that hurt is. I want to invite you to kind of pull it to the foreground. Maybe you'll feel a lump in your throat. Maybe you'll feel that tightness in your chest, like you're about to cry. Let the tears come if they need to. And hear this. It's not your fault. It's not. That thing that feels so obvious now, we're going to nerd out a little bit. Actually, psychologically, it's very understandable that you couldn't see it before. And we're going to talk about exactly why that is. So in Malcolm Gladwell's book, he talks about so it's called Talking to Strangers, and it's all about why do we misunderstand each other so terribly. It's a fascinating book. He talks about Bernie Madoff. He talks about racial tensions. He talks about like Sandra Bland, her death after being stopped by a police officer, and how did that go so terribly wrong. He talks about I already said Bernie Madoff, about Amanda Knox, who this was like the sensation when I was in high school. She was an American in a study abroad in Italy, and her roommate was killed. And somehow they kind of like looped her into it, assuming that she had done it. And we'll talk about why it was, but she was completely innocent. How does this happen? Malcolm Gladwell talks about three things. One is the most pertinent to our conversation today, but I'm going to give you the other two because it's just I don't know. It's just so good for us to understand how do we do this life that we do. Okay. So here's the first one, and for our purposes, the most important. We as a human race default to truth. In the absence of significant evidence to the contrary, we assume that the people in our lives, even people that we're just meeting, are telling us the truth. That's the first thing. The second thing is transparency. This is what went wrong with Amanda Knox. We assume that people are as they seem. So, and if that isn't the case, if there's what he calls a mismatch, we have a really, really hard time working that out. And so we'll go into that. Well, I'll tackle that now because we're really going to live in the default to truth. Okay, so with Amanda Knox, with the transparency issue, the idea is we assume that we can look at someone's face and know their emotion. We assume that we can encounter someone, talk to them, ask them questions, and know what's going on, whether they're being genuine or not. The studies actually show that we're terrible at this, and there's kind of a frightening litany of statistics that Malcolm Gladwell shares, where effectively, when people are properly matched, they're appearing cagey and they're actually guilty, or they're appearing calm, cool, and collected and they're actually innocent, then we do a pretty good job with that. We'll get that right like 70 to 80% of the time, if I remember correctly. People in positions where they actually need to be able to do this, like federal investigators and things like that, do an amazing job at this when people are properly matched. The problem comes in when they're mismatched, when you've got someone appearing calm, cool, and collected, and they're lying, or when you have someone who appears cagey and they are just nervous, just scared. So this was the failing with Amanda Knox. She was kind of quirky, a little weird. So in the aftermath of her roommate's absolutely brutal murder, she was playful, kind of silly. Like she walked into the home, which was a crime scene, and they had her put on these booties, and she puts the booties on and spins around and goes, ta-da! She's kissing her boyfriend and cuddling with him. They're making jokes, and everybody assumes this is a sociopath. She is not only guilty, but brazenly in your face about it, doesn't even care. And that's what ended up taking down this innocent girl. She was in prison for quite some time. And even afterwards, I can't remember if it was Barbara Walters or one of those kind of interviewers was like, "You didn't seem remorseful." And she's like, "Remorseful of what? I didn't do anything." She doesn't have to seem remorseful, but it was weird. People couldn't match her. Similarly, Bernie Madoff, completely you know, completely intricate, crazy, massive Ponzi scheme. Nobody could figure out how he was making his money, and yet he didn't seem shifty. He didn't run away from questions. He kind of would just smile and listen and be like, "Yeah, sure, investigate me if you want to. It's no big deal. Everything looks good." And he duped people for years. Why? Because he was mismatched. The third thing is what they call coupling, which basically says we assume that people are who they are all the way through, no matter their circumstances. And in a somewhat macabre section of the book, he talks about suicides and how we assume that that if somebody wants to take their life, that they'll find a way to do it. And yet, what we see is when nets get put up on the edge of bridges, when carbon monoxide gas loses its fatal compound that it had before, it's not that suicide rates shift to something else, it's that they drop. And so we actually can look at people in a different way, not just who are they, but where are they? What is their context? So those two are just kind of fascinating little nuggets, but we're going to leave them there and we're going to come live over in this default to truth. Because this is where betrayal hits so hard. Because, and it, and I know you're like, well, I could grab some from transparency too, for sure, and maybe some coupling. But since I don't know everybody's story, we're just going to keep it real general and really live over in this default to truth conversation. We start by believing that people are telling us the truth. It is not until there is a trigger that is so unmissable that we like just can't help but land on the inverse, uh-oh, they're lying, that we actually doubt. And this is why we'll hear ourselves and those that we love saying things like, "I can't unsee it. I can't believe I didn't see it. And now that I see it, I can't unsee it." Because it's almost like little marbles on the scale, and just it moves it a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, and all of a sudden it chunks over. The weight's enough. There's enough evidence on the doubt scale to be able to tip the scales and go, "I see it now." But we're looking at all those marbles and we're like, marble one went on that scale 2 years ago. How could I not have seen it? Marbles 4, 5, and 6, they were on the scale a year ago. Months ago, we had all these other ones. It wasn't until that last one, until that phone conversation we overheard, until that really weird piece of data came in, until the money numbers didn't add up for the 10th time, where we're like, that's it. I know it now. But listen, here's what I want to tell you. You weren't wrong to explain away that first piece of data. Okay? You weren't wrong. We were wired for trust. We were wired for love and connection. And Malcolm Gladwell goes deeply into this story of a man named Harry Markopolos. He was some sort of financial analyst or something that had blown the whistle on Bernie Madoff years before Madoff actually went under investigation. Years. Raised the red flag. There's a problem. Tried to get the authorities to investigate. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. So when Madoff finally gets charged, here comes Markopolos saying, "I knew it all along, and I've been blowing the whistle on this guy for years, and nobody would listen." okay? Nobody would listen. He looks like the hero. And sure, I mean, he saw it. But here's the thing. What we presume in the aftermath is that everybody else should have, could have seen it, and they just didn't want to. They got paid off. They were in on it too. He's my golfing buddy. I don't want to be involved in it. But what's actually typically going on is there's, again, not enough evidence on the scale. There's not enough marbles yet to be sure. Malcolm Gladwell also talks about I think it's Sandusky, the Penn State molestation case. There was this doctor that was working on gymnasts, and he was molesting them in the same room as the parents. Like, the parents were in there while he was just little ears. I'll keep it vague, but basically he said he was helping them with pelvic floor strengthening, and the parents were sitting right there. And the children would even say, "I feel uncomfortable." Well, that's just what he does, honey. He's an expert. And who cares more about those kids than their parents? But because there wasn't enough, there wasn't a strong enough weight on the scale, we just kick our uncertainties aside. And there was, I wish I had the book in front of me, but it's already back at the library. But there was this powerful moment where one of the girls who had been taken advantage of by this man, who was one of the most outspoken advocates for him all throughout, because she thought, well, he's just doing his job. Everything's fine. At his trial, she looked at him and she said, "I defended you, and I told these girls they were wrong until I couldn't do it anymore. And now I have to stand against you and defend them and defend myself, because there's too much I know now." So we trust, we believe until that weight comes over on the other side. And so, circling back to Harry Markopolos, so Harry saw, when one marble goes on the scale, he knows this is not good. There's a problem. But Malcolm Gladwell gives us a gift, and he shows us what happens to the person who is wired to not default to truth. He goes on to describe Harry as becoming increasingly paranoid. He had gotten to the point where he thought Bernie Madoff was out to get him because he was speaking so outspokenly and going to the authorities and really bringing him before people and saying, this guy's a problem. He started wearing a bulletproof vest. He started getting afraid. He said things like, if I die, it's not an accident, telling his family members this kind of thing. And then after Madoff gets taken in, Markopolos goes, my problems are just beginning. Because since all of these federal authorities had not blown the whistle on Madoff years before as he did, and now he's speaking out and saying these guys should have known years ago. Now he's sure that all of these guys that didn't call Bernie Madoff out years ago are going to come after him. Because, see, he doesn't understand default to truth because he doesn't have it himself. He's not wired that way. Or at least his tipping point is so small by comparison. And so he's sure that all of these people that didn't take Bernie Madoff as a serious threat years ago were complicit somehow, and now they're going to get him. So Markopolos, and this is why I want to have lunch with Malcolm Gladwell. Markopolos ends up, like, the scene kind of ends, the chapter ends with him spending his days in a darkened hotel room. I'm taking a little bit of artistic license here because I don't remember exactly how the passage goes. Oh, I wish I could read it to you. Go get the book. It's so fabulous. Sitting in a darkened hotel room, gun at the ready, bulletproof vest, sitting and waiting for someone who's never coming. He's so sure that the enemy is at the door, and he doesn't realize that the real enemy is within. It's that part of him that is unable to trust. And so here's the gift that Talking to Strangers gave to me. It illustrated so beautifully that this thing that feels like a flaw when we're in the midst of a betrayal, when our hearts are broken, is actually the very thing that is going to ensure that there will be sweet moments in our lives that will far outstrip the betrayal that you've navigated. Because it is the ability to default to truth that leaves us open to love and connection and peace and rest and joy. If we're sure that an enemy is around every corner, we never get to lay it down, friend. Because if it's not this monster, it's the next one. If we were betrayed by somebody, oh, maybe their friend was in on it. Maybe their family member was in on it. Maybe all of these other people knew about it and they didn't do anything. Maybe the next guy's going to do it too. And maybe the one after that and the one after that. Just because they seem nice doesn't mean they really are. And I'm just going to honor this place. If your betrayal is fresh, you are probably knee deep in this right now. It's just like after you get in a car accident and then the next time you try to drive, you're just like, car accidents are waiting everywhere. There's no way I can get down the block without getting in 6 more car accidents. It's impossible because we're all heightened. We're hyper aware.
Hey, Mama, let me ask you a question. When's the last time you gave yourself some white space? I am not talking about a trip to the bathroom alone or even the grocery store. When's the last time you had what I like to call some no one needs me time? For homeschooling entrepreneurs, time like this isn't a luxury. It's actually a key component to a healthy business, homeschool, and family life. So, if you're ready for your next respite, whether it's you by yourself, you and your spouse, or a family trip, join us at our peaceful haven, Just Like Paradise, located on gorgeous Oak Island, North Carolina. This 3-bedroom house is just a short walk to the ocean and nearby restaurants. It has a screened-in back porch with fireplace that is to die for, hot tub, and even a fire pit if you're feeling ambitious. Book through the link in the show notes, and then you have a unique discount code, podcast100, to get a $100 discount on your stay as a thank you for being one of my listeners. Get your next getaway on the calendar today.
And there's a vulnerability that the Lord, He knows we're raw right now. He will minister to you in that place. We can't help but be raw because the veil got lifted and our vulnerabilities got shown for what they are. We are that woundable. We are that trusting that someone has the ability to rip the rug out from under us and we go down. And in the moment, that feels like a negative. Never going to happen again. I'm going to armor up. I'm prepared. No way am I missing the next one. But friend, that's not where we're going to stay, is it? Because if we do that, then we lose the ability for joy. We lose the ability for trust and connection. We will be like Markopolis, sitting in our darkened room, waiting for the next shoe to drop, sure that it's just around the corner, responding to everything with suspicion, mistrust, fear. So what do we do instead? Well, you know what I'm going to say. We take it before our Father. We give it to Him. When we've been betrayed, it can be really hard to reckon with that other person hurting us so deeply. And man, we want to see justice. If you haven't found your way here in your own betrayal, or maybe your betrayal's not fresh, but you're going to find someone who needs you, I'm going to speak over you Psalm 73. This is the place we're going to go. Whenever we've got friends that are hurting, whenever we're hurting ourselves, I kind of lived here in one of my own betrayals. It's just over and over a couple times over the years. This is where I came back over and over again. There are some really good Psalms because the Lord knows every emotion we have to reckon with is in the Psalms, every single one. And how beautiful is that the Lord's like, I'm not afraid. Bring your laments, bring your fears, bring your anger, bring your injustices, bring your hurts, bring your confusion, bring it all here. And bring your praise and your worship. All of it. So Psalm 73. Truly God is good to Israel, to those who are pure in heart. But as for me, my feet had almost stumbled, my steps had nearly slipped. For I was envious of the arrogant when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. For they have no pangs until death, their bodies are fat and sleek. They are not in trouble as others are, they are not stricken like the rest of mankind. Therefore pride is their necklace, violence covers them as a garment. Their eyes swell out through fatness, their hearts overflow with follies. They scoff and speak with malice, loftily they threaten oppression. They set their mouths against the heavens, and their tongue struts through the earth. Therefore his people turn back to them and find no fault in them. And they say, how can God know? Is there knowledge in the Most High? Behold, these are the wicked, always at ease, they increase in riches. All in vain have I kept my heart clean and washed my hands in innocence. In other words, what was the point? These guys get to mock God, and they're always making more money, and they're always doing better. They're fat, they're sleek, they're happy. They seem happy. All in vain have I kept my heart clean and washed my hands in innocence. For all the day long I have been stricken and rebuked every morning. If I had said, I will speak thus, I would have betrayed the generation of your children. But when I thought how to understand this, it seemed to me a wearisome task. Here's the turning point. You ready for it? Until I went into the sanctuary of God. Then I discerned their end. Truly, you set them in slippery places. You make them fall to ruin. How they are destroyed in a moment, swept away utterly by terrors. Like a dream when one awakes, O Lord, when you rouse yourself, you despise them as phantoms. Just, they are so insubstantial, of so little consequence. When my soul was embittered, when I was pricked in heart, I was brutish and ignorant. I was like a beast toward you. Nevertheless, listen to this. I want you to hear this for yourself. Nevertheless, I am continually with you. You hold my right hand. You guide me with your counsel, and afterward you will receive me to glory. Whom have I in heaven but you? And there is nothing on earth that I desire besides you. My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. There's a note at the bottom that says that can be read as, but God is the rock of my heart and my portion forever. For behold, those who are far from you shall perish. You put an end to everyone who is unfaithful to you. But for me, it is good to be near God. I have made the Lord God my refuge, that I may tell of all your works. So what are we going to do, friend? We're going to play the long game, that eternity game that we're a part of. We're going to trust that no matter how it looks right now, if it looks like your betrayer is living the good life, first of all, in some cases, our betrayer is someone who really just didn't know any better, was young, meant well. Sometimes these betrayals are small. Doesn't mean we don't have to reckon with them. But many times, a deep injustice was done by someone who was not acting honorably. And we can look at them and go, how are they just okay right now? How are they still standing after what they did to me? We take out Psalm 23. Where are we? I like Psalm 23 too. We can go there too. Take out Psalm 23, take out Psalm 73. Say, nevertheless, I am continually with you. You hold my right hand. We go into the sanctuary of God. We trust him to take care of what needs to be taken care of with that person. It's okay. It's okay. He's got them. He's got you, most importantly. We trust that he has us. We trust that vengeance is his. He's going to take care of it. And we decide we're not going to leave that tender place. We're going to stay heart to heart before the Father. We're going to forgive the other person. Let them go. In other words, we're going to abide. And then you know what comes next. If you've listened to any of these podcasts, if you've read The True Vine, you know what's next. We abide and we bear. We're back in John 15 again. Maybe forever. Maybe we will just be here forever, because there is no length of time long enough to be in John 15, is my current opinion. Because listen, how did that friend-ish acquaintance of mine know to tell me it's not your fault? Because he had weathered his own betrayal. Because he had walked his own place of trusting someone and finding them not true. Now, I happen to know that because he shared his story to bring healing to mine. But even if not, we can't give what we haven't received. We just don't have it. If we've never walked through a betrayal, the temptation is going to be to misunderstand and go, you should have known. Really? You didn't get it after that email came through? Really? You didn't get it after that weird time when they didn't come when they said they were going to come, or after they said that funny thing? Really? It seems so obvious after the fact, even to us. But I hope you hold fast to Malcolm Gladwell's assessment about defaulting to truth. There's got to be a tipping point. And he actually brings up, like, there's this experiment called the Milgram experiment, where students were brought in, and the ostensible purpose of the experiment was to assess how people learned as they got, like, penalized for failures or something. And so the way it was set up was the so-called instructor, who's the person being experimented on, watching how they react, is in a room, and they're told that they have a dial that they can turn up to administer higher and higher shocks to this person who's taking a test in the other room. So you ask them a question. If they get it right, no shock. If they get it wrong, shock is administered. And they're told something along the lines of the highest dose of shock is really, really painful, but it won't kill them. And so the experiment starts out, and it's like very light shocks at first, and then more and more and more. Well, what they think is happening, and ostensibly what's happening, is that the person in the other room is receiving these shocks, and he starts screaming, and he starts crying, and he begs and he begs and he begs. Please don't do it anymore. I can't take it anymore. This is really painful. I'm really hurting. I can't take this. I can't stand it. And then there comes a point where there's silence. Later on, participants who were the ones administering, again, supposedly administering the shock, talk about losing sleep, talk about fearing that they actually killed the participant. And every time they would try to pull back from administering a higher shock, the supervisor would say, "I'm sorry, this is the way the experiment is run. You have to administer the shock." And more than half of the participants actually did. They complied. And this experiment is also talked about in things like, how did we end up with Nazi Germany and all the atrocities of the Holocaust? How did these things happen, right? But the other piece is the experiment was actually done very poorly. The actor wasn't all that effective. The sound, the actor, the one supposedly receiving the shocks, supposedly was in the other room, but the noises, the screams, were coming from a speaker on the wall, and you couldn't hear it through the room. So it was clear that it was a pre-recording. And if you were really paying attention, you would recognize, like, why is the sound coming from the speaker? If the point of the experiment was to assess learning, why was the supervisor in the room with the one administering the shocks instead of in the room with the learner? So there were all of these aspects that left a lot of questions. And some of the participants would even ask, like, is this really what this experiment is about? I don't understand what's going on here. So there was doubt. But what Malcolm said that was so important is there wasn't enough doubt. Here was this experiment that it's not even legal. Like, you can't do experiments on people like this in the United States. You're not allowed to. And yet the participants were losing sleep, sure that they had killed somebody, because they did a psychology experiment on their college campus or whatever the setting was, right? I mean, I did those in college. You go, you get your $5 Subway gift card, and there's lunch for the day. And here they are thinking they'd killed a man. This is default to truth. It's not your fault. It's not. We're wired to trust. And it's one of the best parts about us. Because the same thing in you that left you vulnerable to being hurt by that goober, I don't know if you need that. Like, just call him a goober or her. Like, shame on them, right? Shame on them. Somebody told me when I was walking through one of mine, they said, Anna, they took advantage of your goodness. And of course, theologically, we can go into that like no one's good except God, right? But it's like, it's the best parts of us. Sometimes in betrayal, it's the best parts of us that get taken for a ride. And we want to put those things in a drawer and say, that's it. Not pulling that one out again. Vulnerability, trust, love, belief. And like there is an element where our innocence gets lost in these times. And I just want to honor that. That is no small thing to lose. I'll never look at the world the same way again. I get it. It's painful. And in my experience, I don't know about you, and there's a lot of life I haven't lived yet, but I don't know that anything has wrecked me like betrayal. Like it trumped grief, right? Or it was its own grief, but it's like it it was harder to navigate than a death of a loved one because it involved I felt complicit in my own pain. It's like I didn't stop it soon enough. And so that's why I just want to tell you, like, not only is it a balm to hear someone say it's not your fault, but we got the data to back it up. It's how we were made. We were made to trust. We were made to believe. We were made to hope. This is also part of how we get access to the kingdom, believing that it's possible, that Jesus is the Christ, that he came and he did all he said he did. Are we really going to sit back our whole lives and say, prove it? I ain't going to trust it unless you prove it. What did Jesus say to Thomas? Blessed are those who have not seen and yet believe. Right? And even though we get the eyewitness account, that's the walk that everybody after the apostles had to make. We didn't get to touch the scars. We didn't get to put our hands in his side. He knows it's hard. But he's got us. He's got us in that place. And come what may, if you've got some working out to do, I'm literally talking to you and I'm realizing when I went through one of my betrayals, I really struggled with my faith, where I was like, I don't know how to know that it's true anymore. And as I'm talking to you, I'm like, gosh, no wonder, literally just realizing this now. And of course, I was like, I'll just keep that to myself because it's kind of private. I guess I don't do that anymore. You guys just get to hear all the stuff. No wonder I struggled because my default to truth had gotten rocked. And the temptation was to put it away and say, no, everything's got to be tested and proven now because I'm not going to risk that again. This is no small walk, okay? But walk it we will because we got guts in this group, don't we? You, friend, have got guts. You've got the courage. You got the heart to seek belonging with the Father. You've got the desire to live your life well. So we abide. We go before the temple of the Lord. How did it say it in Psalm 73? Until I went into the sanctuary of God. My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the rock of my heart. Let's just own the other translation. It's actually, that's what it says, is that's actually what the Hebrew word is. So they use the word strength, but what the Hebrew word is rock. But God is the rock of my heart and my portion forever. Okay? So we're going to abide with the Father and we're going to let him love us all the way through. this hard. And we're going to bear. And what are we going to bear? We're going to bear much fruit. As always, we're going to bear much fruit by being with the Father. But I want you to just hold on to this piece in particular. The piece we're going to bear that's going to minister the most deeply to us in our own heart and in our own pain, in our own hurt and in our own pain, let me get my words right, is that one day we get to turn around and look at someone else in their shattered brokenness. And just as my friend said for me, you get to say, it's not your fault. You're going to know it all the way through because you walked it with the Father. You're going to know it all the way through because you listened to this conversation and you had another little chip of that, like, just hardness fall away. You're going to know it all the way through because you'll see 1,000 other little conversations that the Lord ordained just for you to help you heal and to help you rise again. So, if you're walking through your own betrayal, hear me say again, friend, it's not your fault. It was your tenderness that left you open. It was your willingness to default to truth, to trust that people are who they say they are. It's a beautiful part of you. Don't throw it away because someone else decided to walk in sin and darkness. The Lord will take care of them. Psalm 73 assures us of that. You turn your gaze up to the Father, with whom you can be fully transparent, whom you can fully trust. Look full on his wonderful face. Receive all the love and blessing you need from him. And know that one day, this pain right here will be magnified and glorified before the Father as you are able to turn around and say, friend, me too. It's not your fault. All right, friend. Good work today. I know this was a tough one. Thanks for hanging with me. If I can serve you in any way, if you need to hear directly from someone else, it's not your fault. Message me. I'm here for it. In the meantime, as always, you've got this. You do. You really do. Because he's got you.
Friend, thank you so much for listening to this most recent episode of Overwhelmed to Overcomer. So listen, the whole idea behind this mission is that when we endeavor to be brave with our lives, we need to do it together. Belonging is key. So if you resonated with the message from this episode, share it with a friend. Do it together. Thank you again, and never forget, you've got this because he's got you.